In a series of precise attacks, Ukraine just carved multiple corridors into Russia by crippling Putin's air shield that protects its most valuable oil resources. These attacks clear the way for future strikes against Russia's energy resources, and the message to Putin is simple: we don't believe you'll stop attacking our infrastructure, and we're ready to hit back when you break your ceasefire. On March 24, Euromaidan Press revealed the full details of Ukraine's brilliant strategy. Before the ceasefire on energy infrastructure could be fully ratified, Ukraine seized the moment to maximize the damage to Russia's critical infrastructure, squeezing in the last timely strikes, said the outlet. Those timely strikes all focused on one thing: the aerial defenses Putin relies upon to keep Russia's key infrastructure and oil resources safe. When Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke to US President Donald Trump on March 18, he made an offer. Russia would stop attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure for 30 days as long as Ukraine promised to do the same. That ceasefire wasn't as immediate as Putin initially claimed it would be. And so, Ukraine has spent the last few days destroying a carefully configured aerial defense network, and it started in the Russians' Belgorod Oblast. Located near the border between Ukraine and Russia, Belgorod has been the focus of several Ukrainian attacks in the past. As recently as March 18th, the same day Putin agreed with Trump to ceasefire, Ukraine launched a cross-border assault into the oblast that involved 200 soldiers and 5 tanks. Russia claims that it repelled that assault. However, it proved powerless to prevent Ukraine's initial devastating breach of its air shield. Ukraine's first attack saw it use first-person view drones, or FPV drones, to decimate 4 of Russia's Pantsir S-1 systems in the border territory. That's a massive loss for Putin. Each of these missile systems is estimated to cost Russia about $15 million, meaning Putin lost a cool $60 million worth of equipment in the blink of an eye thanks to Ukraine's initial Belgorod assault, though that monetary loss pales compared to the loss of the 4 Pantsir S-1's capabilities. Each is a ground-based and mobile multiple launch rocket system, or MLRS, that fires surface-to-air missiles against targets, including drones, incoming missiles, and even aircraft. It's been in service since 2003 and has a range that varies between 12.4 and 24.8 miles, depending on the S1 variant. The MLRS also uses a solid-state radar, allowing it to track up to 20 targets over a range of up to 22.3 miles. Once it finds appropriate targets, the Pantsir S-1 can fire a volley of missiles from a launcher vehicle, typically 57 E-6 missiles, which can engage 4 targets simultaneously and carry a 44-pound blast fragmentation warhead that's strong enough to rip almost any incoming aerial target to shreds. 4 of these systems together have the ability to launch dozens of rockets, massively impacting Ukraine's ability to conduct aerial strikes. Now, those 4 Pantsir S-1 systems lie in tatters, the victims of a drone swarm that was too large for them to take out. But Ukraine was just getting started. Clearing out the 4 Pantsir S-1 launchers in Belgorod opened the door for Stage 2 of its multi-step assault on Russia's air shield, taking out a Niobium-SV electronic warfare system. Among the newest of Russia's radar systems, the Niobium-SV is capable of detecting aerial and ballistic targets. It has a detection range of up to 248 miles and can track objects at a height of 24.8 miles, making it the perfect choice to intercept incoming aircraft, drones, and missiles. The system communicates all of the information it gains from its radar to Russia's anti-air systems, making it a vital cog in Russia's air shield. Without this radar, the Pantsir S-1 and Russia's other aerial defenses have no early warning system. They have to rely on their own targeting systems, which have far shorter ranges and thus give the systems less time to react to an incoming threat. On the electronic warfare front, the Niobium-SV is also capable of sending out jamming signals to incoming drones and missiles. Those signals interfere with the drone or missile's targeting system, potentially sending the weapons off course. The gap Ukraine created via its Pantsir S-1 strikes allowed it to send a focus horde of FPV drones against a Niobium-SV in Belgorod. That system likely tried to communicate the coordinates of the horde to its now destroyed air defenses. However, its electronic warfare countermeasures were ineffective, leading to the repeated failures depicted in this video, a successful strike by Ukraine. If Ukraine's efforts were limited to these 2 systems, that will still have been enough to open up future opportunities for strikes in Belgorod. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's forces were far from through. The next Russian air shield target was left practically helpless following the destruction of the Niobium-SV, an ammunition depot supplying Russia's S-300 and S-400 aerial defense systems. Both have posed significant challenges to Ukraine's defense throughout the 3 years of Putin's invasion. The S-300 is an issue because it's numerous rather than advanced. Like the Pantsir S-1, the S-300 is a mobile MLRS that's capable of intercepting drones, missiles, and some aircraft. It fires surface-to-air missiles, with different variants of the weapon having ranges between 15.5 and 62 miles. It's also one of the older air defense systems in Putin's arsenal, having entered service in 1978. Even so, a single battery export cost back in 2010 was between $120 million and $150 million. Costs may be lower for Russia when supplying itself, but still, any attack against an S-300 is likely to set Russia back close to $100 million. The S-400 is the more modern and the vastly more dangerous of the two weapon systems. It's capable of firing 4 types of missiles, with the 40 N6E's massive 248-mile range making an excellent choice for taking out swarms of drones or incoming missile barrages at a distance. It's also highly mobile, with the system also being comprised of multiple containers that can hold and launch 4 missiles at once. It takes Russia just 10 minutes to deploy and set the system for a launch, which is transported via 6x6 BAZ 6402-015 trucks, making it a highly mobile and dangerous threat to Ukraine. As the newer of the two, the S-400 is believed to cost Russia about $500 million for a full battery and reserve missiles. Ukraine didn't take out any of these anti-air weapons with its third strike. Instead, it hit a target that was far less capable of defending itself: the ammunition stockpiles Russia had for its S-300s and S-400s in Belgorod. A storage depot went up in flames, likely taking dozens of missiles with it. This was an extremely intelligent attack. Rather than risk having its drone shot down due to a direct assault on Russia's S-300s and S-400s, Ukraine took out the ammunition those weapon systems need to be effective. It essentially achieved the same result a successful strike on the anti-air systems would have achieved. Russia's Belgorod S-300s and S-400s are now practically useless, until Putin finds a way to send more missiles for their stockpiles. Taking out those stockpiles now means that Ukraine can target the deep rear of the Ukraine war's front lines without fear of interception. Belgorod just got a whole lot more vulnerable, meaning we can anticipate more aerial strikes, both against ground targets and the region's energy infrastructure, if Putin fails to follow through with his promise for a ceasefire. As for the front lines, Ukraine didn't limit its assault on Russia's air shield to Belgorod. Its fourth attack focused on Zaporizhzhia, one of the key battlegrounds of Putin's early Ukraine invasion. Zaporizhzhia is home to one of Ukraine's nuclear power stations. Russia has held control over that station since March 2022, having previously raised concerns over causing a nuclear crisis with its repeated shelling of the city during the early weeks of the invasion. Ukraine wants Zaporizhzhia back. However, before it could consider taking the town, it needed to destroy the aerial defense systems blocking its ability to conduct strikes in the future. The fourth step in Ukraine's decimation of Russia's air shield saw it take out at least one Buk M3 launcher stationed in Zaporizhzhia, along with the electronic warfare system that supported the launcher. Classified as a medium-range surface-to-air or SAM missile system, the Buk M3, nicknamed Viking, is a modernized version of Russia's Buk M2 missile launchers. A single battery is capable of tracking up to 36 targets simultaneously, making it another good choice for tackling drone swarms and incoming missiles. And it fires the advanced 9R31M missile, which is resistant to electronic jamming and can blow most targets out of the skies. Remarkably, Army recognition reports that the Buk M3 has reached a .9999 target destruction probability, suggesting the system is highly accurate and absolutely deadly. The stats certainly seem to back that up. Russia claims the system can track and hit targets moving at speeds of up to 6,710 miles per hour over distances up to 43 miles. None of that seemed to help in Zaporizhzhia. Ukraine likely sent a massive swarm of drones that overwhelmed the Buk M3's targeting systems. Being able to track up to 36 targets doesn't mean much when there are potentially dozens more encroaching on your position. And with its electronic warfare capabilities also knocked out, the Zaporizhzhia Buk M3 became a sitting duck for Ukraine's air shield assault. Another key part of the shield was taken down. But Ukraine wasn't done yet. Building on its success in Zaporizhzhia, Ukraine turned its attention to Russian air defenses in Crimea. That region has been under Russian occupation since 2014 and provides Putin's forces with a route into Ukraine via the Black Sea. However, it was the Black Sea that ultimately proved the undoing of Russia's Crimean air shield in the fifth and most impressive of Ukraine's attacks. Utilizing naval drones, Ukraine steered its unmanned ships to within range of its Crimean targets. Once in range, the naval drones unleashed hordes of aerial kamikaze drones that zoned in on multiple targets. Among them were two S-300 MLRS, the ones that cost Russia $100 million apiece, along with a trio of Pantsir S-1 systems to bring Ukraine's total up to 7 destroyed in its multi-stage Russian air shield assault. Another two Niobium-SV electronic warfare systems also fell to Ukraine's kamikaze drone attacks, destroying the ability of Russia's aerial defenses to track and jam incoming aerial threats. But perhaps most impressively of all, Ukraine's Crimean assault also took out a Russian Mi-8 helicopter. The Mi-8 is becoming a common target for Ukraine. On March 24, it took out 2 of them, along with a pair of Ka-52 attack helicopters in a HIMARS strike against a secret Russian airfield located in Belgorod. Perhaps the early destruction of the Pantsir S-1s and electronic warfare systems in that region made the HIMARS strike possible. Chalk another one up in Crimea. The Mi-8, also known by the NATO codename HIP, is a multi-purpose 2-engine chopper that is flown in 49 countries around the world. It's predominantly used as a transport helicopter that's capable of carrying up to 30 troops. It can also be used as a medical evacuation chopper because it has space for 12 stretchered patients. There's also an attack version of the Mi-8, dubbed the Mi-8TV, that is fitted with 6 external weapons racks capable of carrying lethal unguided S-5 rockets. The Mi-8TV is also an effective anti-tank chopper when its racks are loaded with Russia's Swatter 9M 17P Scorpion missiles. Add several 7.62mm machine guns into the mix and you get a very threatening aerial asset. While it's not immediately clear which of these Mi-8 variants was taken out, what is clear is the Crimea attack was another massive win for Ukraine. And that win became even bigger after the initial attack cleared the way for Ukraine's 6th strike, also in Crimea. This final attack on Russia's air shield destroyed 11 different Russian radar systems, along with a pair of command posts that 2 other radars rely upon, for a total of 13 disabled radars. Now, the few aerial defense systems remaining in Crimea are effectively blinded, making it incredibly difficult to do anything against incoming low and medium flying objects, like Ukraine's drones and missiles. In 6 steps, Ukraine decimated Russia's valuable air shield. The question now is simple. Why? We already have our answers. When Putin broke his promise to start an immediate ceasefire by attacking a key piece of Ukrainian energy infrastructure, mere hours after his phone conversation with Trump, he lit a fire under Ukraine. Zelensky likely saw this broken promise coming. Putin has already broken 25 peace agreements during the past 10 years alone, demonstrating that Russia's leader is a man who simply doesn't keep his word. As of press time, Putin is negotiating with Trump on the specific terms of the energy infrastructure ceasefire he initially claimed would be immediate. Ukraine is taking advantage of the delay. It knows that Putin is just buying time until he feels he can negotiate more favorable terms, assuming he agrees to any sort of ceasefire in the first place. So, with Putin using the same tactics he's always used to get the upper hand, Ukraine has leveraged its destruction of Russia's air shield to hit energy infrastructure throughout the country. And it's hit that infrastructure hard. The Engels airbase, which is in the Russian region of Saratov that lies east of the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, was the first target. Exploiting the gaps it created in Russia's air shield with its 6 strikes, Ukraine launched over 20 strike drones at the airbase, which is home to several Russian fighter jets and bombers Putin uses to fire glide bombs at Ukraine. Those bombs, which are modified versions of the Fab bombs Russia built in the Soviet era, have caused widespread devastation in Ukraine. Now, Putin can no longer launch them from Engels. Ukraine's drone assault triggered massive explosions at the base, taking out an ammunition storage site that was likely home of glide bombs, cruise missiles, and long-range missiles Putin wanted to use to hit Ukrainian targets. Here, Ukraine's strategy switched from offense to defense. By taking out Engels, Ukraine limited Putin's ability to use the base for targeting Ukraine energy infrastructure, as Russia's leader delayed agreeing terms for the ceasefire he proposed. And with that base out of the way, Ukraine turned its attention to Russia's oil industry. Saratov was the immediate target. With Engels in disarray, Ukraine sent several Lutyi drones to strike an oil pumping facility in the Russian region. Those drones are made in Ukraine and can travel up to 372 miles, ideal for the long-range assaults Ukraine just made possible by taking out Russia's air shield. Ukraine has used these drones to target Saratov before. The region's oil refinery was hit sometime in November 2024, according to United 24 media. This time, Ukraine likely sent the enhanced version of the drone, which is capable of carrying a 165-pound warhead to cause massive damage. Geolocated footage of Saratov shows that the drone successfully hit a Saratov oil pumping facility in a showcase of Ukraine's tactical genius. These drones, though large, powerful, and capable of flying large distances, are also slow enough to be easy target for Russia's air defense systems. Putin's problem is that those systems don't exist anymore, at least not on the path Ukraine's drones took to Saratov. And with the Engels air base in ruins, Russia's leader can't even use his jets to shoot the drones down. More attacks on Russia's energy infrastructure followed. In Tambov, Ukraine sent drones to take out a gas compressor station that's part of the key Druzhba pipeline Russia uses to send gas into Central Europe. Given that Europe is still the largest purchaser of Russian gas, accounting for 39% of Putin's sales, even under the weight of sanctions, this pipeline attack likely caused a massive dent in Russia's finances. But Ukraine wasn't done there. With its attacks on Russia's air defense systems and radars in Crimea and Zaporizhzhia completed, the door was open for further strikes against oil refineries in Rostov and Krasnodar. Another refinery, this one owned by the Russian energy giant Lukoil, was also hit near the Sarepta railway station in Belgorod. That railway station is key to Putin's push in East Ukraine, as it supplies troops with weapons and fuel. With the Lukoil refinery in flames, there's now less diesel and petrol making its way to Russia's troops on the front lines. That means Ukraine's defenders in the Donbass region face less pressure from the rampaging Russian soldiers. Finally, Ukraine turned its sights toward Moscow. Having cleared the Russian air shield, it launched a strike against the city's CHP-16 power plant. The facility, which supplies more than 1.5 million Moscow residents with electricity, along with serving the city's many industrial sites, went up in smoke. It was yet another victim of Ukraine's concerted attacks on Russia's oil and energy infrastructure. So what does all of this mean for Putin going forward? When he promised an energy infrastructure ceasefire during his conversation with Trump, Putin probably felt like he held all of the cards. After all, his missile, glide bomb and drone attacks on Ukraine are believed to have caused over $14 billion of damage and often leave Ukraine's citizens dealing with rolling blackouts. He thought he could get Ukraine to accept that ceasefire before employing delaying tactics that allowed him to complete more strikes. The tactic worked in a sense, as Putin broke his immediate ceasefire within hours. However, he didn't anticipate that Ukraine was several steps ahead of him. Zelensky knew that Putin would never keep his word, which is why Ukraine likely focused so many of its attacks on Russia's air shield. And as soon as the initial ceasefire ended, Ukraine launched attack after attack, taking advantage of the corridors of safe airspace it previously carved through Russia to deliver a huge message to Vladimir. We can hit your oil and gas supplies whenever we want. Now, Putin has a massive problem on his hands. His air shield is a fraction of what it used to be, with Ukraine costing Russia's leader billions of dollars in lost air defenses. He's watching as his oil refineries, gas pipelines, and so much more of Russia's energy infrastructure go up in smoke. And all of that amounts to millions, perhaps even billions, being taken out of the ever-dwindling Russian purse. As for Ukraine, it now knows it can hit some of Russia's key energy assets with impunity. And if Putin does invest in new aerial defenses, assuming any are left, then all the better. That means fewer defenses for other Russian regions. Plus, Ukraine could target those new defenses again to carve out even safer aerial corridors. Russia is losing the battle for aerial supremacy. The question now is, will Ukraine's strikes force Putin to accept an energy infrastructure ceasefire earlier than he'd anticipated? Let us know what you think the answer might be in the comments, along with sharing your thoughts about Ukraine's brilliant series of strikes. Will Russia revive its air shield? Are we going to see more Russian oil refineries get destroyed in the coming weeks? Tell us your thoughts, and remember to subscribe to The Military Show for more videos covering Ukraine's military tactics. We're an independent outlet dedicated to delivering the latest breaking news on military conflicts around the world, and we very much appreciate your support.